Good morning and welcome back. Whew. Just woke up not too long ago. I have a question for you this morning. Are you taking your life too seriously? Are you taking your life too seriously? Sounds almost like I'm picking on someone. In my life, I've realized that every time I'm in a shitty mood, I feel sad, I feel angry, all those extreme negative emotions, a lot of times I realized that I'm just taking it too seriously. I'm taking my life too seriously. Sometimes I have to go through the pain of it before I can look back maybe a day or two or a week later to see how silly it was. Not anymore. Not anymore. Sometimes a person needs to to look back a week or so later and see how serious they're taking the whole thing. When you first start really looking inwardly, sometimes it gets worse at first. Sometimes it intensifies all the negativity in you, but that's only because you never really looked at it and you spent a large majority of your time distracting yourself from it. So it's not that it becomes more, it's just that you're seeing it more. You're bringing it to the surface. You're looking at it where before you were avoiding it. So it seems as though when you first go on the journey inward, when you first start looking at yourself and really asking yourself some tough questions, it feels as though it gets worse at first. And that's natural. And then when you go a bit further, you find as though it's getting easier and easier and easier. Because you start to get used to the process of looking at yourself and really, learning to laugh at yourself. And then it comes in waves, right? So eventually it'll come back even stronger again into what they call the kitchen sink, or what I've heard called the kitchen sink of the spiritual journey. Because usually at first a person will tackle a lot of the small things. And then when the stuff that really hits home, that really you take very personally, you start to bring light onto those aspects of yourself, then you find that you feel very sad and very negative, and you find it's very difficult to overcome this stage in your process. And that's natural. Some people can be stuck there for years, and that's okay. You've been hiding it for years, you've been avoiding it for years, so you have to expect nothing from yourself in the end. You just have to go through the process and learn to enjoy the little moments. So what it really comes down to, though, even in those toughest of moments when you're facing yourself, is, are you taking yourself too seriously? That's really the only question. It might be too difficult to ask yourself that sometimes, and to feel as though, how could I not take it seriously? But that's really the only thing a person needs spiritually, to feel well, to feel happy, joyful, to start letting go, to learn to enjoy your life, is to just look at things seriously as they are. And I don't mean seriously like without laughing. I mean honestly, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Are you taking your life too seriously? Are you holding on to a plan for your future, your expectations? Do you want your life to have a certain outcome? Do you not want to let go of the control trying to steer the direction of your life? Because trying to steer your life too seriously, taking that too seriously, can be very, very, very detrimental to your wellness. What I've learned in my life is that you cannot steer your outer circumstances, your outer world, with any level of expectation. You can't steer your outer experience, because there are tons and tons of other people that are contributing to the outer experience you're also experiencing. So in reality, this is a shared experience. And if ever you've lived with a big family or roommates, you know that things are not always going to go the way you want them to. And a lot of times, just learning to let it go is a more powerful, transformational act. Very difficult at first, but it's the only thing that'll bring you peace. Because in the end, you don't have control really of the external world, but your internal world you can truly get a hold of. That I can tell you from experience. I've struggled for years and years till the age of 36 with overthinking and anxiety. There's a mosquito after my leg there. Go ahead and land. Anxiety. I used to worry about everything. And I used to also take my life way too seriously. Ha! And I learned to, you see, it's not as though I knew these things first, but when you start hearing people talk who are on the spiritual journey, who have gone further than you, and they say certain things, at first it feels very seductive. It feels as though, well, I want that. I want to feel peaceful. I want to feel happy. And then for me, at least in my experience, in my life, I got curious. I got very curious, and the pain of staying the same was more painful than the pain of changing. So I took steps into seeing for myself if what they were talking about was real. So I started, what did I have to lose, right? I was already miserable. So I started trying different ways of looking at the world, is what I mean. And to me, that's what's been the biggest change. Just changing how I see myself, changing my understanding about certain words, just really going and re-examining everything, starting to build a brand new perspective from fresh, from the beginning, right? Dropping everything that I think I know, and as everything drops, this new type of perception comes in. And that, in combination with, like I said, reanalyzing what I think words mean and just looking into the deeper aspects of life itself, challenging myself, I learned to find that regardless whether or not whether you're living a happy life or a sad life, it's your choice. Not your external circumstances, but how you feel about it. So what I mean by it's your choice is that you can get up in the morning and you can feel like crap, and you can give that energy. And you're giving that energy. Or you can get up in the morning and you can give energy to something positive. Because in my experience, I found that I had created a default mode of waking up and focusing on the negative. That was energy draining for me. And then I found that when I needed to shift to the positive, that was also at first a little bit energy draining on me. So I had to make a choice. Both were draining, but would I rather feel negative or positive? So at the very early stages, even the first couple of years, you go through this process as well. You have to say to yourself, what do you want? I can choose to focus on negativity, or I can choose to focus on positivity. And That's what I mean by energy draining. At first it feels like a chore. It feels as though you have to change yourself, and there's a certain amount of effort that it takes to redirect your awareness from what it's used to doing to a way of thinking that is more positive and makes you happy. So at the beginning, there's this sense of this is work, but it's just the process of change in general. So as I've learned to become comfortable in the later part of my spiritual journey where I am now, as I learn to become comfortable with change itself, it seems as though nothing really gets to me. And I can allow all types of energy to flow through me without them having a grasp onto my deeper being. So I can allow a thought to come, I can just dump it and not hold on to it. I don't try to stop negative emotions, because part of loving yourself is accepting both your light and your dark side. And you end up realizing that there is no light and dark, there is only you, and that's it. You don't need to classify it as a bad or a good thing. I like using a cat as an example. If you go to pet your cat, sometimes, depending on the temperament of your cat, it might claw you and give you a dirty look and then go back to cleaning itself, or it might allow you to pet it. But the cat is just being himself. He doesn't need any explanation, or he doesn't classify that as a bad act and try not to do it. Do you understand? He just will claw you. Back off, you know? So in that same way, that's a very healthy expression of emotion. In life, you're not supposed to stop yourself from really being, and any block, you're not supposed to block your emotions. It's not up to you to guard everybody else's feelings and guard everyone else's emotions and protect everybody from yourself. Everybody is responsible for their own inner space. And that's what I've learned, is that trying to stop yourself from doing certain things and being certain ways and feeling certain emotions so that you're protecting others is really what's draining, or at least what was draining me. And the more I allowed myself to just be myself, the more I allowed myself to just be who I am and to not block my emotions, I noticed I was able to much more quickly drop the negativity as it arose. So the instant I would feel anger, if I could just drop it out, throw it away, and not try to stop it per se, it just flows out. It just, it's gone. And there's never an attachment to it where I don't want it there. And I realized that not wanting a certain emotion is true madness. Not wanting to feel what you're feeling is ridiculous, because you're already feeling it. It's like if you get your leg cut off and then you spend the rest of your life not wanting to have that happen, you're going to be very miserable. And it's a very extreme example, but when it comes to emotional energy, it's the same thing. You're feeling what you're feeling, so there's no sense fighting with it. You're best to just accept it, move on. What else can you do, really? So there are healthy ways to get rid of your energy. You try your best not to dump it on the person, but you also have to learn to put your foot down if you're being stepped on, okay, and say no. So learning your barriers, your boundaries are extremely important in this case. But it brings me back to the very first thing I mentioned in the video, is that you can't take yourself too seriously at the same time. If you're angry, sad, express it, but don't take it seriously. Still learn to laugh at how silly you're taking the whole thing. If you can laugh in the midst of anger and sadness, it'll just dissolve. And that's the real key, the real magic, the real alchemy there. It's to learn to laugh at yourself. So that's it. That's it for this video. I feel very silly today. I feel like I could pull a prank or something. When a person watches people like myself talk about spirituality and feeling peace, a lot of times people assume that we're in a constant state of happiness and constant state of peacefulness, and it's not the point at all. Myself, just like anybody else, I go through the full spectrum and range of emotions, but it doesn't affect my inner being anymore. And that's the real magic. And that's what you learn in the end by not taking yourself too seriously. Once you can drop the seriousness and the struggle to try to change what you're feeling, it becomes much easier for it to just disappear on its own. It's a strange thing. You have to experience it for yourself. So wherever you are around the world, whatever time it is that you're watching this video, thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you. Peace.